All right, welcome everybody to the 5 a.m. Grind podcast. I'm going to be your host, Ali Lada.
And my name is Harris.
Welcome, everyone. So to get us started, I thought we'd start with a bit of an introduction about myself and Harris. So Harris, do you want to introduce yourselves to our viewers and listeners?
Well, I am basically a lawyer barred in Toronto or Ontario, Canada. And I have my own practice where I do or I provide a bunch of services.
Yeah. Nice. Real estate lawyer. Yeah.
Real estate lawyer. We do corporate, done family. So we have a few different practices. And I believe that how we met was we went to undergrad together.
We met in undergrad. So it's been a long time. What, 10, 12 years now?
Yeah, so undergrad.
Yeah, it's been a while. Holy cow. Time flies. It really does.
Yeah. Undergrad, I did finance, then I did law.
Yeah. I took the other path. I went into accounting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we came together and we decided we were going to do the 5 o'clock grind.
The 5 a.m. grind.
5 a.m.
grind. Horace is just a little rusty on the name. Because we've
first
just
episode.
First episode. Yeah, that's right. We gotta. It's gonna take us a little bit of time to get used to this. Anyway, so I'll go cover my background. So, dear viewers, listeners, thank you for joining us. So my name is Ali Lada. My background essentially is in accounting and finance. I graduated same time as Horace did. I'm not going to say when because that's going to date me. But graduated, started working at a Big Four accounting firm in audit and advisory. Did that for a little while. I've worked in equity research at a bulge bracket investment bank in Toronto. And then now I currently work at a tech company, and I also have my own accounting practice that I provide services to startups, real estate clients, just in terms of tax, bookkeeping, accounting, and advisory. So that's a bit of background on myself. You've heard Horace's introduction. Why don't we talk to them about what the 5 a.m. grind is?
Yeah. At least let me kick it off.
Yeah.
I think we came together because I guess we often pick at each other's minds in terms of brainstorming and figuring things out, and we're always trying to start new things.
Yep.
And I felt for me, this is a podcast for like-minded individuals, go-getters, whether you're starting a business, whether you're starting a new hobby that you want. People are constantly learning and growing.
Yeah.
It's about getting up in the morning and taking everything head on.
Yep.
And kind of self-growth, self-improvement from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. If I don't know if I would be speaking to a particular audience outside of that.
Yeah.
But I would like to say if I had to kind of speak to who we're kind of targeting, I would say that it's definitely those individuals who want to constantly be growing.
Yeah, and I'd say the exact same thing. Now, for those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, or for those of you who visited our About YouTube page, you'll see a bit of a video that explains what the podcast and the show is going to be about. But in sort of to put it into my own words, we're really here to sort of inspire. Got mic problems? Yeah. We're really here to sort of inspire a lot of entrepreneurs, just individuals who are looking to sort of grow, get inspired, move forward, progress in their careers and their business. And that's really be inspired by discussions between us. And our long-term sort of objective is also to get a lot of entrepreneurs and self-starters across the country, have one-on-one interviews with them, sort of pick their brain as to what it is that drives them, what's their lifestyle, did they get up at 5 a.m., right? Those kinds of things. So that's essentially what we'd like to do. So we've covered the introduction for the two of us, what the podcast and the show's going to be about. Shall we dive into topic number one?
Yeah.
Here we go. Drum roll, please. All right. So I thought for this topic, our first topic, we'd pick something that it sort of resonates with people during this time of year. We're towards the end of December 2020, have lived in lockdown for most of this year, obviously. And as we get into 2021, there are a lot of people that are going to be setting resolutions, their big goals they'd like to achieve, myself included. I always try to set resolutions, even though sometimes I don't stick to them. It's always nice to sort of reevaluate and set goals. I think for myself, the question that I wanted to sort of prod for this week's podcast and show was, why are people afraid of taking a risk, right? So people are going to be setting goals for 2021. Some of those goals are usually bold and audacious, but sometimes you set some goals and then you don't necessarily pursue them.
Yeah.
And it sometimes has to do with the fact that maybe you're a little gun shy, you're afraid of taking a risk or going out on a limb a bit. So I just wanted to cover that particular topic. What is it that sort of prevents people from taking that next step and taking that risk to achieve their ultimate goal or objective?
No, I think it doesn't only resonate for people like during this time of year, but it's also something that I feel like the two of us starting this podcast in itself, is taking a risk.
Really good. Because I was going to cover that.
Yeah.
I was going to really cover that. Because I've been watching YouTube since it's been launched, right? And I've honestly, I've always flirted with, maybe I want to do like a few videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you go to my personal channel, you'll see a couple of ski videos. So I made an attempt at it.
That's pretty good.
It was okay. Yeah, I got
like
100 views. But honestly, I never took it seriously because there was always some sort of a barrier. I was like, I don't want to be too public about this. I don't know how to keep this going. It wasn't really consistent. I didn't have like a process or necessarily a direction to take the channel. So kind of left it, and then it didn't really go anywhere. But I guess, what would you say got us to start this? Like, what was the impetus? I think I'm older now. I care a lot less, and I'm a lot more hardworking. I've honed in some of my abilities. How about you?
So for me, I feel like, first of all, I felt like with you, this is something that...
so there are two of us, which is good, right? We motivate each other. We keep each other on point.
And I think we work well together.
Nice.
We work well together.
Yeah, I'd say so. Sometimes we disagree. We don't always work well together, but hey, what relationship is perfect?
We don't always agree.
Yeah.
And often enough, we do have different opinions.
Right.
But I would say we work well enough together that it doesn't get between us and prevents us from taking the next step.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing.
Right.
And outside of that, I think that I feel like both of us have enough experience to provide that value for a podcast like this. I wouldn't have done something like this 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I wouldn't have had the experience.
Yeah,
or the
I wouldn't have.
None of that.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah.
And now I feel like there's enough years behind me to kind of give back and bring some meaningful insight.
Be able to talk about stuff intelligently.
Yeah.
You have like real anecdotal experience and you've been in some situations. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
totally
like 10,
agreed.
15 years ago, if we started this, I think the only discussion we'd have is based like on our opinions on reading an article or something.
Yeah.
That's very theoretical.
Yeah. It is very
It's
theoretical.
not like really steeped in any kind of like pragmatic experience that kind of compels you to move one way or another or think one way or another.
That's true. That's true. That's actually a good point.
I felt like now was like the perfect time because, I mean, we're at that time in our careers where we can give back. We've gained, I've experienced enough success. I'm not going to say like we're crazy or anything.
We're still a work in progress.
Yeah, we're still a work in progress. But we've had enough success to be like, all right, these are the things that work and these are the things that don't work.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I feel like that's why it's like perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. All right. So shall we tackle the topic? So I was going to think, so I've divided the topic in a few key questions that you and I can answer. So the topic, like I mentioned, is why are people afraid of taking risk? So number one is, in your opinion, what's the number one obstacle preventing someone from taking a leap? And apologies for looking down, just making sure I know the questions. Number two will be how to deal with doubters. Number three will be how to mitigate risk. And if we do have time, we'll cover the last one. How do you know that something you're doing is not really working? How do you know to stop? Like if you're taking a risk and you've done it, how do you know if you should stop? Yeah. So let's do the first one. In your opinion, what's the number one obstacle preventing someone from taking a leap, starting something? We sort of covered it when we talked about how we started this podcast and show, but yeah.
But I would say it's, I mean, the number one I would say is themselves and like basically getting over themselves.
Bingo, yeah.
And like, you know, it's like, I think any task, whenever you start anything, right?
Yeah.
Even when you started high school or middle school, everybody's like first day of school, right?
Yeah.
Kindergarten. You're thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get over this?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's the fear of the unknown.
Yep.
And it's all in your mind. And then you take it one step at a time. You go the first day, the second day, the third day.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're kind of used to it. Now you're sad leaving.
Right.
So it's the same thing. First day of work, right? You have no idea what you're going to be doing. Is your boss going to be happy with you and all these other things? First client, right? Yeah. It's the same thing over and over again. But those situations, the difference between those situations and a risk that we would take, for example, in terms of leaving a job to go start a business. This is an hypothetical.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave your job to start a business, right?
Yeah.
Which is why you might be avoiding that because it's all in your mind. Going to high school, a lot of those things are not up to us. Those decisions have been made, and we're going, and now we're forced in the situation, and we have to make the best of it.
Yeah.
So number one reason I would say that people are afraid of taking risks is themselves. Yeah, and if they can avoid it, they'll avoid it.
I totally agree with that, 100%. The only thing I would add is like a quote that I like, and I sign off on my emails with this.
Yeah.
It's doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. I'm sure you've seen this particular quote at some point, dear listeners and people watching this on YouTube. But you should really embody that quote because that's exactly what you're saying, right? It's all the doubts that you have in your head. It's like, for example, when a lot of like people, when they talk about giving you coaching, dating advice, right? They tell you 99% of people, the reason why they don't approach that girl they want to talk to is because they sort of tell themselves in their heads that, she's just going to say no, so I'm not going to reach out to her. Yeah. But if you just give it a shot, you never know what might come of it. Yeah. She says no, what's the big deal?
Yeah. And I feel
but she might say yes.
Yeah. And then I feel like the biggest issue is not even just the no.
Yeah.
It is the feeling after the no.
Yeah, it's like the fear of rejection, the way you're going to feel.
And you don't feel too good, and you're like, I don't want to feel
honestly,
like this again.
how long does that actually last?
Yeah.
It doesn't even last that long.
You forget it pretty quickly.
You forget it pretty quickly.
And that's like the people who take more risks take more risks.
Yeah.
Because like you realize like, I mean, it didn't work out now. I'm going to get up and do it again. I'm going to get up and do it. It's like going to the gym too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not that I look like I go to the gym, but at one point I did. But it's like when you're lifting, right? It's not about getting it down the first time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You keep pushing. You add a little bit more.
Correct.
Sometimes you fail. Sometimes you weren't like your mindset wasn't right, but you're at it again in the next day.
Yeah. You keep pushing it. Yeah. Totally agree. All right. So we agreed on that one. Interesting.
Well, the other thing. Let's number two. So
number two. How do you deal with doubters? Yeah, naysayers, doubters, haters.
No, but like I would say, hold on. Before we get to that part, I wanted to say the number two reason people don't take risks is what they're afraid of other people thinking of them.
Right. Okay, that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
And I just wanted to touch on that before we get to the next one.
Yeah.
Because I think they tie into one another.
They do definitely tie into one another.
Because often enough, it's like, okay, we might get rejected by a girl, but you're also thinking, did anybody see?
Yeah.
My friends see?
Did my what if she says people? What if she tells people, I rejected this guy. Oh my God.
What if she knows somebody we know, right?
Yeah. Totally.
100%. And now somebody else knows, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with business. Oh my God. What's like my parents going to say? What are my friends going to say? What are my spouse? What's my wife or husband going to say?
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Totally. Absolutely.
There's a severe performance anxiety that kicks in that prevents people from kind of giving it all they've got.
Yeah.
I mean, if they do get over the barrier and they start something,
right?
They may not be 100% in it because they're already creating excuses if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that.
I wasn't in it 100%, so that else was going to happen.
Right.
So nobody really says, I gave it 120%, and oh my God, I fell flat on my face.
Right. So two obstacles, I guess, is what we're saying. The first one is yourself. It's really in your head, that mental block that you say, if I do this, blah, 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 I can't do it because of such and such reason. It's made up in your head, right? And then the second one is really you're afraid because people will sort of say something or do something, right? It's your reputation. You're afraid to taint it or change it up.
Both these reasons are like phantom reasons.
They are phantom reasons. They don't exist. It's all theoretical, right? Right? It's like that other saying that you have as well, which says 99 problems of the problems that you think about just exist in your head. They're not actually real, right?
Yeah. And we confuse thoughts into reality.
Correct.
So it's like thinking that somebody's standing in front of you when nobody is, and then actually believing somebody is. Right. Instead, you just kind of get rid of it and you do what you do.
Yeah, it's like when you think something is really hard, you do it. You're like, oh well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of times, like when you're doing something, maybe. I mean, I'm not of that mindset, but it does help a lot of people where you're taking like small steps, small goals. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then you keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
true.
It helps because you're like, all right, that's
break
a win,
down,
that's a win,
break
that's
down
a
a particular hard task into little ones. Yeah. I actually like that a lot. Yeah. So how do you deal with? So it's good lead into our second question. Then how do you deal with doubters? right?
I don't care about them.
Okay, that was easy. That was an easy answer.
No, because I mean, the
But
thing is,
how'd you come? But like initially, I'm sure you cared about what people thought.
yeah, no.
It wasn't easy. We're all, human beings. We're all social creatures. To a certain extent, we all care about what other people will think, etc. Like, let me go back a few years when you started your law firm.
Yeah.
How'd you do that? How'd you get over the fact that, because you know what it is, you walk into an event, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's like a social event or whatever it is, a gathering someplace or a party or something like that, and people, the number one thing people will ask you is, so what do you do, Horace? What do you do for work?
So I think in the beginning when I was like trying to find my voice, and voice, I mean, how do I present the business of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I was confused. I felt almost like an imposter if I was like, oh, I do this, because then it's like, yo, maybe somebody thinks I'm doing something that I'm not.
Yeah.
Right? There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
But there wasn't, I don't know, like for me, to be honest, people who doubt me, there's two types.
Yeah.
Okay. There's ones that are kind of in the periphery on like just really far away. They're always going to be like, oh, this guy's not going to be able to do it.
They always say no.
And a part of it is from like their own insecurities, right? Because they want to be in that position, potentially try and do something, but they may be afraid, which is why they kind of project that, right?
Yeah.
And be like, hopefully this guy's gonna fail,
Got
right?
it. Yeah.
But then there's people in your inner circle that may doubt, and I take their advice seriously. So I would sit down, and those people always tell you why they're doubting.
Yeah.
Right. So if I came to you and you're like, if I find out that you're doubting something that I'm doing, right, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, he's doubting me and now I can't do this. I'm going to sit down with him and be like, okay, what parts of this are you doubting, right? And I trust our relationship enough so that you'd be like, okay, you'd be like, okay, well, you know what, you started this thing here, but you haven't finished something here, so I feel like you're gonna leave this in the middle, like you did that.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, well, is this a pattern that you see? And you might say yes,
or
something like that. So there's a dialogue, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason why you think, why you doubt that I would not be able to make it.
Yeah.
Having said that doesn't mean that when you're speaking to somebody within your inner circle that they're going to be absolutely right.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you could be, sure, there's projects in the past that you may have not completed.
Yeah.
But maybe you changed.
Yeah.
Right? You've turned a new leaf, and now you're going to go into this, and you know that you're going to be focused.
You know what you're doing, etc. Yeah, you're much more experienced. I actually, that's a really good point. I'd say to add to what you just said, some of the biggest doubters for people are their own friends and family, dude. It's like your own brother, your own mom and dad, your wife are doubting you. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly normal. Just remember that when you're taking a risk, right? It has effects on other people too, because you're not the only one affected. Yeah, like if you are employed and you're starting a new business, let's say you're going to start a new startup, right? And your wife says, well, why are you doing this? You have a good job. Why are you risking it all on this startup, right? You're affecting her livelihood and her life as well, you know, and she's quite comfortable where she is right now. You know, why are you changing it up? A lot of people are okay being where they are. They're sort of like, you know, the status quo, it's hard to disrupt the status quo when it's good, right? Yeah. And I'll go to another saying that I have, you know, comfort is the enemy of growth, success and progress, right? Being comfortable is always the enemy of growth and success, right? Because you're comfortable right now and you're like, why do we need to change this up? What's wrong with this, right? Yeah. And when you talk to your family about taking a risk, they're afraid because you're changing your perception. You're sort of indirectly affecting them as well. Yeah. And they're like, well, why are you doing this?
Yeah. But I feel like there's that element. There's also the element that when you're married and you have dependents on you and you're taking a risk, the other person might be kind of concerned because now it's not about you and them, it's about you, them, and the kids.
The kids, you got
so
responsibilities,
risk, right?
Absolutely.
So and then if you can't make the mortgage payment and you're out on the street, things are pretty bad. Yeah. That shouldn't prevent you from taking that risk. Yeah. It should contextualize the doubts. Right. So that's where the doubt is coming from, and you know that, and you kind of realize that, and it puts more responsibility in making sure not that you succeed in whatever you're starting to do,
Yeah.
but you eventually succeed.
Right.
So you keep going.
Absolutely.
You keep going over those roadblocks
Yeah.
until you find a way. It's not about like finding a way around the wall. You keep hitting up against that wall until you break through it.
Until you break through it. I like that. I like that.
So
I guess, how would you say, because our third question was going to be, how do you mitigate risk, right? Like you said, families, your wife usually is concerned about what you're going to do. You have kids, like you have a mortgage. How do you mitigate a risk? Like, how do you, what's the best way to do that? It's not, I'm sure it's not an easy question to answer, but how best do you do that? Like, let's say you are in a situation where you have a pretty good job and you want to start something. You want to leave the job and start something because there's a problem you want to solve, an interesting opportunity, etc. How do you mitigate that risk?
I don't think there's I would think preparation mitigates it.
Okay.
Right. But I doubt that there's very few people who do not prepare before they leave the job.
Okay.
To start their own business. The one thing that I do feel that people don't prepare enough for is failure. So they should prepare to fail.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get it on that first try. I think a lot of people think that as soon as they quit, they've got this amazing idea and it's going to make them a billionaire overnight. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
You're going to quit and then you're going to implement or try to execute this amazing idea that you have. You're going to fail. You're going to do it again. You're going to fail. You're going to do it again. You're going to fail. You're going to do it again.
Yeah.
And that happens again and again.
It's
and
an
again
iterative process, right?
Yeah.
It's like you got to keep at it. It's not going to succeed the first time around. Yeah.
So in terms of like being able to mitigate something, how do you prepare for it? I mean, I would just I'd mitigate risk by preparing for failure.
Okay.
Like you have to have that mindset. But outside of that, I mean, there's a reason you're quitting your job to start your own business, or you're doing whatever it is. Maybe it's you're quitting your business to start a job. Whatever it is, there is a reason, and that reason is that there's a more fulfillment, right? Whether it is you're going to be financially more successful, there's going to be you're going to be more fulfilled as an individual. You're going to grow as a person. Whatever way you're going to grow, there is you're not taking on that risk to be at the same place. You're moving up. No pain, no gain. So
that's true. That's true.
So if there was an easy way to start your business and everything's going to be great, you're not going to feel anything. Right. And you can mitigate it and you can assure success. Right. You're good. Like everybody would be doing it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Everybody would be doing it. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. That's absolutely true. I like that. I'll take a different tack at this one, right? What I'll say is, I think Warren Buffett has a pretty good quote on this. He says, never test the waters with both feet. So don't put both of your feet all at once, right? And look, I don't think there is a right or wrong answer about this. You said like do a more or less a cutover, right?
I'm more. Like,
you're more. You're more brash. You're more like. I know. Horace's personality. He's a bit more like. A bit more brash. I think the way I do it, maybe it's because I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat right now. I don't know. Maybe in my 30s. I think what you would like, ideally, the ideal situation would be you at least try it out on the side, try it out, at least experiment it, especially if it's a new business idea. Let's say it's a new product, etc. Get a couple of paying customers and then cut loose, right? Try it out. Like a lot of people think, I have this idea and I'm going to quit my job. Having an idea isn't reason to quit your job. That's not enough. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 100%. And I know I'm an employee here. I don't have experience. I'm not the expert at this. But I would say if you have an idea, that's not reason enough for you to quit your job. You should trial it out. At least have a couple of paying customers. At least have it in market for a little bit, whether it's a trial or whatever the hell it is. Do that. But I'll preface this by saying it's definitely not easy to have a job and start something. It's not easy. Like this is, like Kevin O'Leary says, entrepreneurship it's not glamorous. It's one of the hardest things you're going to be doing. Like it is tough. If you have kids, a wife, and a job, and now you want to start something, dude, like better be ready for some long hours.
And I guess, you know what, how to mitigate one other way is to surround yourself with good company. And I just came to this realization as we're having this conversation. Because if you're the type of person who has to plan everything out, right? And I'm the one who kind of just like, let's wing it. Right? I would need somebody like you around me to put me like bounce ideas off, and every single
To
time
like
I'm
rein
going
you in
too
a little
far,
bit, rein you in a
yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
right. And then if
I like that.
if
I like
somebody
that.
is too conservative or they're too risk averse,
Yeah, they need someone who's gonna
like, yeah,
push
listen,
them
like,
a
yo,
little
let's
bit.
go,
Yeah,
yeah, you know,
they
let's-
needed a bit,
yeah.
bit of a motivator. Yeah.
And both of them
It's
are
like yin
good.
and yang. You need
Yeah,
both sides.
You need both sides. You need both sides, and you need a little bit of attention there
Yeah.
to really flesh out what's right and what's wrong, and
Yeah.
like what really like, because nobody's gonna have. I'm not gonna have a well defined, the most refined idea.
Right.
I'm gonna say this is what I want to do, and you're gonna maybe say this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. I would
Yeah,
do this.
yeah.
And I don't have to take everything from you, but I could take a lot from you.
Yeah.
And maybe the answer, like none of us has a right answer.
Yeah.
Maybe you come to the answer by working at it and kind of coming to a compromise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean, for me, for example, with my business, right? I will throw ideas out there. I always ask people to give me their perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's not about me having my idea, which is good and it's gonna be great and we're gonna like be so successful.
Right.
It's about getting to the right answer. It's about hitting the mark.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah,
quest
yeah.
for the truth is more important to me than being brash or conservative or whatever,
Right.
putting myself in like, I know my mindset.
Yeah, yeah,
Now I
yeah.
gotta make sure that I find other people that complement that mindset.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
together I can
yeah.
get good answer.
That's so true. That's actually a really good point. Really good point. I guess moving on to the last little bit of question that we have is, when you're taking a risk, how do you know it's not working? I know this is a tough one, right? How do you know it's not working?
I mean, there's like a balancing here, right?
It's not, yeah,
Yeah.
because this is not an easy question to
Yeah.
answer. It's very subjective, in my opinion. But how do you know it's not working? I think why don't I take
Yeah,
this one?
go
I'll
for
start this one. I think for this one, yeah, you just gotta have good friends, good company, just like yourself,
Yeah.
right? Who sometimes are there to support you, when you're doing something and to push you along. But sometimes when it's not working and you're too deep into something, they tell you, hey, I don't think this is good. That to me are valuable friends. You don't want your friend circle to be the type of people that say, hey, keep going. Hey, keep doing this. They're just cheerleading you the whole time.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, good
Yep.
friends also keep you in check sometimes, right? When you're too arrogant, they sort of calm you to bring you down a
Yeah.
little bit and tell you,
Yeah.
hey, calm down, right?
Yeah. And they challenge you. They're like, okay, what's going on? Why are
Exactly.
you doing this?
Yeah,
Where's
yeah.
this going? What's your end plan? What are you doing now?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, totally.
They hold you accountable for
Yeah,
your actions.
yeah.
And when you're accountable, that helps to kind of understand when something's not working.
Yeah.
But dude, like, it's difficult because everything doesn't work the first time. I mean, not everything, but I would say like majority of the entrepreneurs that I've seen,
Yeah.
their first idea does not work.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't. They do it, they fail, right? Some
Yeah.
of them like quit their jobs, they'll start to do a business.
Uh-huh.
They lose all their money.
Yeah.
They'll go back to a job because now they need to like pay bills.
Yeah,
or-
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
they
they'll
got
start
bills to pay, et
again.
cetera, right.
And I commend that a lot, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's like, it takes a lot of just resilience to keep getting up, right? And
Yeah.
then knowing that I'm going back to work and I failed at something, but I'm going to start it again later on.
Correct.
So all of that is something like, it's like the difference between that and then like the first time you feel some kind of uncomfortable feeling, you're like, I want to quit.
Yeah.
So there's like,
Yeah.
it's a balance, and it is really just evaluating it with the people around you, whether
Are saying, etc. I think I'll go back to another point I made as well. It's, like when you test an idea, if you actually have customers who rave about your product, they like it, and they actually pay you for it, then you can say, yeah, this is good. I think even the mistake I made a lot as well, when you're trying to start something, you sort of fantasize the idea. You get enamored by it. You're like, oh, this has to be an awesome idea. This is amazing because I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah.
But dude, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if you like it. It matters if someone's going to pay for whatever it is that you're selling.
That's,
right?
I mean, this is a whole different webinar. I mean,
Yeah,
a
we could do
podcast.
an entire podcast on this.
But it's a focus on like your path to profitability
Yeah.
has to be well defined.
It definitely does.
And
it
if
definitely
you're
does.
like, there can't be excuses. It's not like, oh, these clients or customers are going to come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There has to be a way. And like you said, when you have market proof, then you know it's going to work.
Then you know it's going to work.
Then it's about like scaling it. But if you don't have that, then really you have to kind of review what you're doing.
Yeah. All right. So we got 1 more minute here. So what do you, so the number one thing you tell people when they're taking a risk, what sort of advice you'd give them? The key takeaway, if they're about to take a risk, what's the key takeaway?
I would say depending on the risk, and I'm framing this as like starting a business, but
Yeah.
I'd say keep good counsel and prepare to fail.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'd say, you know what? Don't let your mind get in the way. Start it, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. take a measured risk, keep your job, don't quit your job, don't fall in love with the idea, and look at the hard facts. Are people paying you for this product? If they are, then maybe you've got something on your hands and it's worth quitting for. All right?
All right, man.
That wraps it up. That was episode 1. Thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. Hope you tune into episode 2. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Peace out.